Orkneyshire Reed.
The Orkney and Shetland Islands lie to the north of Scotland. Thomas Fraser was a yodeling fisherman who sadly died 30 years ago, but his music lives on thanks to a remarkable collection of recordings released by his grandson Carl. Duncan McLean lives in Orkney. He's one of our finest authors, now turned playwright and actor. And I caught up with him at Dingwall Town Hall. Little introduction. I'm sitting backstage in Dingwall at the Town Hall in Dingwall, and Duncan McLean has come to town with the Thomas Fraser story. And Duncan's resplendent. A beautiful shirt, Duncan.
Thank you.
And a very fine guitar, which you told me you bought the last time we met, which is about, over 10 years ago.
Yeah, I was playing with the Smoking Stone band then.
Yeah. And you came down to do the Highland Festival, that's I remember, the festival club. So, how are you after all this time?
I'm very well. We're coming to the end of this tour, or the first leg of the tour anyway.
Yeah.
So finally landing awards, and the shows have been going very well.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of beautiful parts of the Highlands and Islands, and most importantly, what a fantastic reception to Thomas's story, because it is a great story.
It's a great story, and anybody that listens to the medicine shows heard me banging on about it for so long. I've been parted to the story, at least the story of the recordings, since the first one came out. Carl brought out the first one, but the story of Thomas Fraser, how far does that go back with you?
Well, I obviously the music that he sings and he loved is the same music that I've loved since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So.
And you're from Orkney, not Shetland.
I'm from Aberdeenshire originally, but
Yeah.
I've lived in Orkney for about 20 years
Yeah.
now. No, all of us, all of the Lone Star Swing Band are from Orkney.
Yeah.
So I had no prior warning about Thomas's existence.
Uh-huh.
I just discovered him in 2002 when Carl reissued the first CD.
So we were both in the same.
And you know, as soon as I suppose when someone first told me about it in Orkney,
Uh-huh.
and I thought, oh God, another of his family vanity projects, you know, my uncle was a great singer.
Uh-huh.
But of course, as soon as I heard it, I went,
Yeah.
oh my God, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I could never be lonely, I could never be blue. I'll go through life if only I have my guitar and you. Why should I ever worry? Why should I be sad? We travel through life in a hurry, sharing the good and
I mean,
bad.
you must have some affinity with the story itself, being from Orkney and, well, knowing, I mean, the music scene of Orkney, the music scene of Shetland, by and large, a lot of American influences on both music scenes.
Yeah, I mean, personally, for myself, of course it goes back further than that. Growing up in rural Aberdeenshire, you know, the American influence was strong there. There were the Bothy ballads and so on, but apart from that, Johnny Cash and Hank Williams and Chris Christopherson were really the main kind of music that people listened to when I was a kid.
Yeah, Jim Reeves and all that.
Yeah, absolutely, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, it's a long-standing thing, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
In Orkney, to country music, going back 50 years or so, there was an act called the Strong Nice Hillbillies, I wish I could have seen. And just the same as in Shetland, that unique blending of local traditional music with American stuff.
I think they were probably ahead of us in many ways, because the radio was had arrived in Orkney and Shetland through the Forces radio before anything else, really.
Yes, and the other thing that, as the show mentions, is that Thomas had friends in the merchant navy.
Yeah.
Of course, if you come from a seagoing place like Orkney or Shetland, it's almost inevitable you have merchant navy or sailing connections generally, and especially in Shetland, you know. So like Liverpool,
Yeah.
these merchant seamen brought back things from abroad, and it could be fancy dresses for their wives, but it could also be 78 records.
And of course, Thomas and yourself, you shared that in being collectors of the music from the onset.
Yes, I mean collector in the sense of loving the songs and loving the music, loving the artists. I'm not one of those folk, and I don't think he was either, who had to have the first edition of such and such with the immaculate picture sleeve.
Yeah.
But he really loved the music. He
Yeah.
consumed it obsessively. I asked Carol Simpson once,
who's his grandson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is now chief holder of the keeper of the flame, as it were, doing such a great job at that. How many records did he have? And he said, well, he never counted them. He said, but if you lay them out on the floor here, they'd go all the way down that wall, all the way along that wall, and all the way back up that wall.
Yeah.
And he had wide musical tastes as well. His chief hero was definitely Jimmy Rogers, and he loved Hank Williams and Hank Snow and Marty Robbins, but he loved the blues as well, and he loved people like the Ink Spots, and he loved traditional Scottish music too.
Yeah, so that...
Gonna drink muddy water, sleep in a hollow log. Gonna drink muddy water and sleep in a hollow log.
So the story, for those that don't know the Thomas Fraser story, we may be talking as if everybody does, and more people are now, and this, the fact that the National Theatre of Scotland and yourself have got this show going out, as well as television documentaries, and the festival every year in Borough, which you're going to this year. It's the 31st year of his memorial this year, so it was the 30th year last year. Now his story is one that never came off the island, was it? He just played his music in Shetland from the island of Borough. He was a fiddler as well as the first country musician in Shetland that we know of.
Of course, it's impossible to absolutely prove he was the first, but certainly he became a fan of that music in possibly the late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah.
So he couldn't have been a fan much earlier than that, because there weren't really country records being made much before that.
Yeah.
He hooked on to Jimmy Rogers just a few years after he died, and was completely bowled over by his records, and they remained his lifelong touchstone, really.
Yeah.
His taste broadened out from there and into Hank Williams and so on, as I mentioned. And they impressed him to such an extent that he determined he was going to learn to play this music. And even if there were one or two other people listening to the records, there really was virtually no one trying to sound like that.
Yeah.
And to be in Atlanta, treated like a dirty dog. Gonna buy me a shotgun with a great long shining bow. Gonna buy me a shotgun with a great long shining bow. Gonna shoot for Alma just to watch her jump and fall.
And he pollinated the island, really. All the younger players came to Thomas for lessons, and he got people yodeling and playing country music.
He was a strange contradiction of a man, because he was extremely shy.
Yeah.
And quite a few people I talked to independently said he was a recluse. He would just sit in the croft, etc. and he wouldn't put himself out there at all. However, on the other hand, if anyone showed an interest in the kind of music that he loved, he would be incredibly generous with his time, his ideas, his records. And so he inspired and educated, probably several dozen young musicians across Shetland, who in turn went on to do their own thing.
And that's how the recording started, wasn't it? Because although these recordings are available now for us to listen to, he just made little personal recordings on a one-off basis for friends and family and people that were really interested.
I think in the early days, as far as anyone can remember, it was just a novelty of hearing himself sing to start with, and he really got into the idea of trying to get the perfect performance down on tape. But when his friends, who appreciated the singing so much, heard what he was doing, they started to ask if they could get copies. I talked to one guy who spent the equivalent of several months' wages on a reel-to-reel machine just so he could hear Thomas's tapes.
Yeah, and that's how it started, wasn't it? It was like when electrification arrived in Shetland. Was that late 50s?
On Burra it was 53.
53, early 50s.
Different dates for different places,
yeah.
But 53.
So his first thing was, oh great, that means I can record my stuff. Is it as instantaneous as that? Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And on, I can't remember which of the CDs, but there's a couple of tracks dating right back to 53. Coincidentally, of course, the year Hank Williams died.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
So we hear Hank for the last time then.
And then we start hearing Thomas for the first time.
I'm gone where the waters drink like cherry wine.